Hello, viewers of the future. I'm Endragh. We're continuing with more light fantastic. Last time we were reading, they had gotten to the greatest computer of the skies, a big huge mountain. That's what I was trying to think of what it was called. Where did it go? Okay, I remember where I finished reading. Anyways, let's start. Boop. It can't be software incompatibility. The chant of the trodden spire was designed for concentrated rings, idiot. I just fired it up again. I say fire it up again and try a simple moon ceremony. All right. Nothing's wrong with the stones. It's just that the universe has gone wrong, right? Through the mists of his exhausted mind, Rincewind remembered the horrible star they'd seen in the sky. Something had gone wrong with the universe last night. How had he come to be back on the disc? He had a feeling that the answer was somewhere inside his head. An even more unpleasant feeling began to dawn on him that something else was watching this scene now. An even more unpleasant feeling began to dawn on him that something else was watching the scene below, watching it from behind his eyes. The spell had crept from its lair deep in the untrodden dirt roads of his mind, and was sitting bold as brass in his forebrain, watching the passing scene and doing the mental equivalent of eating popcorn. He tried to push it back, and the world vanished. He was in darkness, a warm, musty darkness, the darkness of a tomb, the velvet blackness of the mummy case. There was a strong smell of old leather, and the sourness of ancient paper. The paper rustled. He felt that the darkness was full of unimaginable horrors, and the trouble with unimaginable horrors was that they were only too easy to imagine. "Rincewind," said a voice. Rincewind had never heard a lizard speak, but if one did, it would have a voice like that. Yes, he said. He said, yes? The voice chuckled, a strange sound, rather papery. "You ought to say, 'Where am I?'" it said. "Would I like it if I knew?" said Rincewind. He stared hard at the darkness. Now that he was accustomed to it, he could see something vague, hardly bright enough to be anything at all, just the merest trace in the air, something strangely familiar. "All right," he said. "Where am I?" "You're dreaming." "Can I wake up now, please?" "No," said another voice, as old and dry as the first, but was still slightly different, and I'm not doing different, sorry. I can't. "We still have something very important to tell you," said a third voice, if anything more corpse-dry than the others. Rincewind nodded stupidly. In the back of his mind the spell lurked and peered cautiously over his mental shoulder. "You've caused us a lot of trouble, young Rincewind," the voice went on. "All this dropping over the edge of the all this dropping over the... I gotta make sure you can actually hear me. Okay, yeah, cool. All this dropping over the edge of the world with no thought for other people. We had to seriously distort reality, you know." "Gosh. And now you have a very important task ahead of you." "Oh, good." "Many years ago, we arranged for one of our numbers to hide in your head, because we could foresee a time coming when you would need to play a very important role." "Me? Why?" "You run away a lot," said one of the voices. "That is good. You are a survivor." "Survivor? I've nearly been killed dozens of times." "Exactly." "Oh." "But try not to fall off the disc again. We really can't have that." "Who are we, exactly?" said Rincewind. There was a rustling in the darkness. "In the beginning was the Word," said a dry voice right behind him. "It was the egg," corrected another voice. "I distinctly remember. The great egg of the universe. Slightly rubbery." "You're both wrong. In fact, I'm sure it was the primordial slime." A voice by Rincewind's knee said, "No, that came afterwards. There was firmament first. Lots of firmament. Rather sticky, like candy floss. Very syrupy, in fact. In case anyone's interested, said a crackling voice on Rincewind's left, you're all wrong. In the beginning was the clearing of the throat, then the word. Pardon me the slime. Distinctly rubbery, I thought. There was a pause, then a voice said carefully, anyways, whatever it was, we remember it distinctively. Quite so, exactly. And our task is to see that nothing dreadful happens to it, Rincewind. Rincewind squinted in the blackness. Would you kindly explain what you're talking about? There was a papery sigh. So much for metaphors, said one of the voices. Look, it is very important you safeguard the spell in your head and bring it back to us at the right time. You understand? So that when the moment is precisely right, we can be said. Do you understand? Rincewind thought, we can be said? And it dawned on him what the tracery was ahead of him. It was writings on a paper, seen from underneath. I'm in the octave, he said. I'm in the octave? He said. Instead of certain metaphysical respects, said one of the voices in offhand tones. It came closer. He could feel the dry rustling right in front of his nose. He ran away. The single red dot glowed in its patch of darkness. Trimon, still wearing the ceremonial robes from his inauguration as head of the order, couldn't rid himself of the feeling that had grown slightly while he watched. He turned away from the window with a shudder. Well, he said. It's a star, said the professor of astrology. I think. You think? The astrologer winced. They were standing in Unseen University's observatory, and a tiny ruby pinpoint on the horizon wasn't glaring at him any worse than his new master. Well, you see, the point is that we've always believed stars to be pretty much the same as our sun. You mean balls of fire about a mile across? Yes, but this new one is, well, big. Bigger than the sun? Said Trimon. He always considered a mile-wide ball of fire quite impressive, although he disapproved of stars on principle. They made the sky look untidy. A lot bigger, said the astrologer slowly. Bigger than Great Attune's head, perhaps? The astrologer looked wretched. Bigger than Great Attune and the disk together, he said. We've checked, he added hurriedly, and we're quite sure. That is big, agreed Trimon. The word huge comes to mind. Massive, agreed the astrologer hurriedly. Trimon paced the board mosaic floors of the observatory, which was inlaid with the signs of the disc zodiac. There were 74 of them, from Wezin the double-headed kangaroo to Kahuli the vase of tulips, a constellation of great religious significance whose meaning, alas, was now lost. He paused on the blue and gold tileworks of Mubo the hyena, and turned suddenly. We're going to hit it? He asked. I am afraid so, sir, said the astrologer. Trimon walked a few paces forward, stroking his beard thoughtfully. He paused on the cusp of Ujok, the salesman, and the celestial parsnip. I'm not an expert in these matters, he said, but I imagine that would not be a good thing? No, sir. Very hot stars? The astrologer swallowed. Yes, sir. We'd be burned up? Eventually. Of course, before that there would be diskquakes, tidal waves, gravitational distribution, and probably the probably the atmosphere would be stripped away. In a word, lack of decent organization. The astronomer hesitated and gave in. You could say so, sir. People would panic? Fairly briefly, I'm afraid. Said Trimon, who was just passing over the perhaps gate and orbiting smoothly towards the cow of heaven. He squinted up again at the red gleam on the horizon. He appeared to reach a decision. We can't find Rincewind, he said, and if we can't find Rincewind, we can't find the eighth spell of the octave. But we believe that the octave must be read to avert catastrophic. Otherwise, why did the Creator leave it behind? Perhaps he was just forgetful, suggested the astronomer. Trimon glared at him. The other orders are searching all the lands between here and the hub, he continued, counting the points on his fingers, because it seems unreasonable that a man can fly into a cloud and not come out. Unless it was stuffed with rocks, said the astronomer, in a wretched and, as it turned out, entirely unsuccessful attempt to lighten the mood. But come down he must, somewhere. Where? We ask ourselves. Where? Said the astrologer loyally, and immediately a course of action suggests itself to us. Ah, said the astronomer, running in an attempt to keep up with the wizards stalking across the two fat cousins. And that course is... The astronomer looked up into two eyes as gray and blank as steel. We stop looking? He ventured. Precisely. We use the gifts the Creator has given us. To wit, we look down, and what is it we see? The astronomer groaned inwardly. He looked down. Tiles? He haphazarded. Tiles, yes, which together make up the... Trimon looked expectantly. Zodiac? Ventured the astronomer, a desperate man. Right, and therefore, all we need to do is cast Rincewind's precise horoscope. All we need to do is cast Rincewind's precise horoscope, and we will know exactly where he is. The astronomer grinned like a man who, having tap danced on quicksand, feels the press of solid rock under his feet. I shall need to know his precise place and time of birth, he said. Exactly done. I copied them out of the university's files before he came up here. The astronomer looked at the note, and his forehead wrinkled. He crossed the room and pulled out a wide drawer full of charts. He read the notes again. He picked up a complicated pair of compasses and made some passes across the chart. He picked up a small brass astrolabe and cranked it carefully. He whittled between his teeth. He picked up a piece of chalk and scribbled some numbers on a blackboard. Trimon, meanwhile, had been staring out at the new star. He thought, the legend in the pyramid of Torst said that whoever says the 8 spells together when the disc is in danger will obtain all that he truly desires, and it will be so soon. And he thought, I remember Rincewind. Wasn't he that scruffy boy who always came bottom of the class when we were training? Not a magic bone in his body. Let me get him in front of me, and we'll see if we can't get all 8. The astronomer said, gosh, under his breath. Trimon spun around. Well? Fascinating chart, said the astronomer, breathlessly. His forehead wrinkled. Bit strange, really, he said. How strange? He was born under the small boring group of faint stars which, as you know, lie between the flying moose and the knotted string. It is said that even the ancients couldn't find anything interesting to say about the sign, which... Yes, get on with it, said Trimon irritably. It's the sign traditionally associated with chessboard makers, sellers of onions, manufacturers of plaster images of small religious significance, and people allergic to pepper. Not a wizard sign at all. And at the time of his birth, the shadow of Coral Celestri. I don't want to know all the mechanical details, growled Trimon. Just give me his horoscope. The astronomer, who had been rather enjoying himself, sighed and made a few additional calculations. Very well, he said. It reads as follows. Today is a good time for making new friends. A good deed may have unforeseen consequences. A good deed may have unforeseen consequences. Don't upset any druids. You will soon be going on a very strange journey. Your lucky food is small cucumber. People pointing knives at you are probably up to no good. P.S. We really mean it about druids. Druids, said Trimon. I wonder. Are you all right? Said Two-Flower. Rincewind opened his eyes. The wizard sat up hurriedly and grabbed Two-Flower by the shirt. I want to leave here, he said urgently. Right now! But they're going to be an ancient and traditional ceremony. I don't care how ancient. I want the feel of... I don't care about how ancient. I want the feel of honest cobbles under my feet. I want the old family smell of cesspits. I want to go where there's lots of people and fires and roofs and walls and friendly things like that. I want to go home. He found that he had this sudden desperate longing for the fuming, smoky streets of Ankh-Morpork, which was always at its best in the spring, where the gummy sheen on the bits waters of the Ankh River had a special iridescent, and the eaves were full of bird songs, or at least birds coughing rhythmically. A tear sprang up to his eyes as he recalled the subtle play of light on the Temple of Small Gods, a noted local landmark, and a lump came to his throat when he remembered that the fried fish stall on the junction of Middle Street and the Street of Cunning Artificers. He thought of the grencolins they sold there, great green things lurking at the bottom of their jar, looking like drowned whales. They called to Rincewind across the miles, promised to introduce him to the pickled eggs in the next jar. He thought of the cozy livery stable lofts and warm grating where he spent his nights. Foolishly, he had sometimes jibbed at this very way of life. It seemed incredible now, but he had found it boring. Now he'd had enough. He was going home. Now he had enough. He was going home. Pickled gherkins, I hear you calling. He pushed Two-Flower aside, gathered his tattered robes around him with great dignity, set his face towards the area of horizon he believed to contain the city of his birth, and with intense determination and considerable absent-mindedness stepped right off the top of a 30-foot triathlon. Some 10 minutes later, when a worried and rather contrite Two-Flower dug him out of the large snowdrift at the base of the stones, his expression had changed. Two-Flower peered at him. "Are you all right?" he said. "How many fingers am I holding up?" "I want to go home." Okay. "No, don't try and talk me out of it. I've had enough. I'd like to say it's been great fun, but I can't. And what?" "I said okay," said Two-Flower. "I'd quite like to see Ankh-More Pork again. I expect they've rebuilt quite a lot of it by now." It should be noted that the last time the two of them had seen the city it was burning quite fiercely, a fact which had a lot to do with Two-Flower introducing the concept of fire insurance to a venial but ignorant populace. But devastating fires were a regular feature of More Porkian life, and it had always been cheerful and and it had always been cheerfully and meticulously rebuilt, using the traditional local materials of tinder dry wood and thatch waterproofed with tar. Oh, said Rincewind, deflating a bit. "Oh, right then. Good. Perhaps we'd better be off then?" He scrambled up and brushed the snow off himself. "Only I think we should wait until morning," added Two-Flower. "Why?" "Well, because it's freezing cold. We don't really know where we are. The luggage has gone missing. It's getting dark." Rincewind paused. In the deep canyons of his mind he thought he heard the distant rustling of ancient paper. He had a horrible feeling that his dream was going to be very repetitive from now on, and he had much better things to do than be lectured by a bunch of ancient spells who can't even agree on how the universe began. A tiny dry voice in the back of his brain said, "What things?" "Oh, shut up," he said. "I only said it's freezing cold and—" Two-Flower began. "I didn't mean you. I meant me." "What?" "Oh, shut up," said Rincewind wearily. "I don't suppose there's anything to eat around here?" The giant stones were black and menacing against the dying green light of sunset. The inner circle was full of druids, scuttling around by the light of several bonfires, and turning up all the necessary prependiples of a stone computer, like ram skulls on poles topped with mistletoe, banners embroiled with twisted snakes, and so on. Beyond the circle of firelight, a large number of plains people had gathered. Druidic festivities were always popular, especially when things went wrong. Rincewind stared at them. "What's going on?" "Oh, well," said Two-Flower enthusiastically. "Apparently there's a ceremony dating back for thousands of years to celebrate the, rebirth of the moon, or possibly the sun. No, I'm pretty certain it's the moon. Apparently it's very solemn and beautiful and invested with quite dignity." Rincewind shivered. He always began to worry when Two-Flower started to talk like that. At least he wasn't using picturesque or quaint yet. Rincewind had never found a satisfactory translation for those words, but the nearest thing he had been able to come was trouble. "I wish the luggage was here," said the tourist regretfully. "I could use my picture box. It sounds very quaint and picturesque." The crowd stirred unexpectedly. Apparently things were about to start. "Look," said Rincewind urgently, "druids are priests. You must remember that. Don't do anything to upset them. But don't offer to buy the stones. But don't start talking about quaint native folkways. I thought, really, don't try to sell them insurance. That always upsets them." "But they're priests," wailed Two Flower. Rincewind paused. "Yes," he said, "that's the whole point, isn't it?" "Isn't it?" At the far side of the outer circle, some sort of procession was forming up. "But priests are good, kind men," said Two Flower. "At home they go around with begging bowls. It's their only possession," he added. "Ah," said Rincewind, not certain he understood. "That would be for putting the blood in, right?" "Blood?" "Yes, for the sacrifice." And that's where we're going to end it. Yay! Sacrifice. Yeah, I like the fact that he was like not under a wizarding star, but still tried to be a wizard. My throat's a little dry, so I'm having trouble reading right now. I should have brought a drink, but I didn't have time to set that up. Anyways, I have been Endragh. This has been the Light Fantastic. I hope it brought a smile to your face. I have a new camera coming in soon. I bought it. I just gotta wait for it to arrive. That should upgrade the video quality and maybe sound of these videos. Definitely video quality, because it's just my camera and like there's blur lines, so it shouldn't do that next time or with the new camera. Hopefully, cross fingers and all that jazz. But yeah, so we're getting a little bit of an upgrade, which I'm really happy about. So like I said, I've been Endragh. I hope it brought a smile to your face, and I'll see you tomorrow night. Night, night, guys.